my mother and her three sisters were young, he would get drunk on his day off and he would chase them around the house. That's what they would do on his days off. He would try to catch them and do something injurious. Not, it wasn't like tag. It was like catch them,
Oh.
do something bad to them. And so my mother's father was directly from Germany, a border town really of Austria in Europe. And then my mother's mother, my grandmother, she was from a family of immigrants from Europe, and they were from the country of Poland. So
What were their names? Your
I
mother's parents?
my grandmother's name was Nellie, and her maiden name I only know her maiden name, and that was Elder. And then my grandfather from Germany, his name was Anthony Elder.
Do you know what area? You said that it was kind of on the border. Do you know what area or town?
My grandfather, you mean my grandfather being
Mm-hmm.
born? He was born very close to the city in Austria, right on the border that Adolf Hitler was born.
Wow.
Um, Adolf Hitler was well, they were probably the same age. I don't know,
Hmm.
but
And going back to your dad's family in Ireland and Poland, do you know what areas of Ireland or Poland?
well, thanks to you, my daughter, you found a lot of things from the county of Donegal, which is where the McGowans are from. So in Donegal, which once again, my daughter, you have been there many times, or at least several, once on St. Patrick's Day. And it was a very poor country. They were very much burdened by the British. The British had taken over Ireland. And in fact, that's why the Irish spoke English. They had their own language called Gaelic.
Mm-hmm.
And but as the Irish took over their country, they learned how to speak English.
And growing up, to go back a little bit, you grew up in Boardman, Ohio.
Yes, that's a suburb of Youngstown,
Mm-hmm.
and Youngstown was had a huge steel industry here. We made millions of tons of steel.
Did
Um,
you work in the steel mills?
no, I worked at a factory, but I worked at a factory that made um, furniture for offices.
Mm-hmm. What was the name of that company?
It was GF. Well, there were so many. It was first it was General Fireproofing because the company started out making fireproof safes, and then it became GF Office Furniture, which was probably the most definitive name that it had.
And your father also worked there.
Yes, yes, my father got me the job.
How old were you when you started working there?
I was about 20, 21 or 22. It was very hard. I could never stand monotonous work, and that's what I did all day. I would come in the morning in the factory, and my boss, he would say, all these boxes over here put them over there. And so I would just do that all day. And it was very strenuous and incredibly boring.
How is it that you rose above that into management there?
Well, the first thing I did was I employed um, the shaking of hands and calling people by their names,
Mhm.
being very personable.
And you, all of my life, have been that way, down to the cashiers and cleaning people, remembering something about them and their name and going out of your way to say hi, and always shaking hands, winning and influencing people. It's amazing, and I appreciate that. And that's been you're a great role model to the kids in that way, and so many others too. But yes, absolutely. Um, Sorry to interrupt. So
Oh,
using those same skills then within the workplace.
and also reading books on management as best I could. I wasn't a good student in high school, but I read books on management. Plus, I got what they called vinyl records at the time, and you would play them, and they would be just like tapes or DVDs, except you would play them. They were made of plastic, and you would put a needle on them, and electronically, the needle would transfer the sounds into speakers, and then you could hear the music or the person talking.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the 500 most difficult but most commonly used um, words in the English language, and I studied them, and I used them a lot.
You always had a love for words.
I did,
Mm-hmm.
I did, and I still do.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to be 66 in 2 months. I was born October 17th, and in 2 months I'll be 66 years old, and I'm studying up on the very same words that I used from the beginning, so that I could demonstrate to my grandkids that I still have this huge variety of words.
That's great.
So they can look that up in the book and say, what does such and such a word mean? And I'll be able to tell them right off the top of my head. And so I think the most important thing, and this is something that you learn too. You learn how to work hard,
Mm-hmm.
very hard, academically and occupationally, and it's definitely reflected on your abilities. And I always knew, even when you were a teenager and you kind of insignificantized high school, I knew though that you were going to end up with a very good job that you would in fact love.
That's sweet. Well, I always had your encouragement and love. So that's more than any grade could be in high school.
Well, you were the top of the line a couple of years ago. You made Teacher of the Year. You, at 38 years old, you traveled to places that I will never see, like China and so many other places. You've been to Europe, all the major countries in Europe, and you've been all over the country with your husband, Steve.
And you love England too. There are some adventures there.
Well, yes, England was a disappointment to me because I went there thinking, I was about 21, 20. I went there thinking that the British were going to show me how to deal with problems, because at that time I couldn't deal with problems very well. But when I went to England, everybody I met had huge problems, much worse than mine. And it's like it followed me everywhere I went. There was this mist that drew people with these enormous problems to me.
Oh.
And I've got stories that are so politically incorrect now that I can't repeat them, but maybe in another session we will. But it was just amazing.
And boy, we've had stories and adventures, huh?
Oh, we sure have.
Boardman Christian.
Every day I would pick you up from school. We'd go out on a date. We'd get something to eat. And then we would buy you a little present.
Yes, a prize. Go out on a date and get a little prize. And you continued that with my kids, too.
Yes. Yes, that's I found it a way of relating with children.
Yeah.
And my best memories of the children were when I was able to connect up with them with different toys, things like that. Especially for Logan. Logan and I spent a lot of time together.
We did.
And so we were always at the store checking things out or getting something to eat. Sometimes we would go into forests by Green High School. I showed him his first baseball diamond at the high school, and he was 2 or 3. Later on in his childhood, Steve, his father, would take him to professional games, and so he knows a lot about professional baseball now. But this was when he was very, very young, and he just saw it on television. So to see the diamond, the baseball diamond, and run around the diamond was very exciting for both of us. Only I weighed at the time about 370 pounds. And the heat of the summer, which is when, of course, we did most of our stuff, really had a devastating effect on my durability to function. But we did it, and we got into a forest, and we named the forest the Logan Thomas Dyer Forest. It still exists. I was there the other day, and still there. And we used to wander through places. We would find forests behind the church that he went to, the preschool, and we found old homes that had burnt down, and there were just the brick fireplaces still existed. We had so much fun, and it was we always joked and we always kidded. And here comes Carson. Carson, your mother is taping me. She's interviewing me.
We're doing an interview. Come on over.
I was just talking about you.
How was your day today?
Carson. Hi, buddy. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, we were just talking about you.
And how old are you, Cars?
8.
8. Where do you go to school?
Green primary school.
And what grade are you in?
3rd.
Ah. What are some of your favorite things?
Math.
Math is your favorite subject? Good. And what do you like to watch on TV? Or on YouTube? Dan TDM. He does video game stuff. And what country is he from?
England.
Cool. How do you get him? What is he on television or YouTube?
He's on the Xbox.
Oh, on the Xbox, YouTube, and you access that through the Xbox. Cool. What are your favorite toys these days?
Pass.
Pass.
Yes, he's at the age now where he's in between.
Mm-hmm.
The things that he liked as a younger child, like Tom and Jerry cartoons, Scooby-Doo. There were so many things he enjoyed. But now he's growing to the point where he's very interested In sports,
history.